Hello and welcome to the discussion of the November 2018 management case study. My name is Hashan Madushanka and I'm the co-founder and the lead tutor of LCI Academy. So we at LCI Academy, we offer online study support for CIMA OTQs as well as case studies. So in this video, I'll be analyzing the pre-scene of the management case study session, and I will be providing insights to you on possible areas that can be tested and possible issues that can come up and so on. Speaking a little bit about myself, I have been a CIMA tutor. I've been tutoring students globally since the CIMA case study started back in 2015. And I have coached thousands of students globally with exceptional pass rates as well as a number of national prize winners from many countries. Right, so now before I begin the analysis of the pre-scene, I would like to request you to do a couple of things. I want you to have a hard copy of the pre-scene with you, right, a printed copy. And apart from that, I also want you to have a notepad as well as a pen next to you. Now, unlike other support providers, I do not annotate or make notes in the pre-scene because I believe that it's most effective when you make the notes by yourself as I make a point. So whenever I make some important points, you need to pause the video and you need to make notes and so on. So if you don't have a pre-scene hard copy, a pen and a notepad next to you, I would like you to pause this video for a moment and get hold of those three items. So I believe you have the pre-scene, a notepad and a pen with you next to you right now. So let's begin to analyze the pre-scene. So as you see, the pre-scene has around 24 pages, which is the norm, which is a standard. Okay, so you have the introduction of the company. You are the finance manager, which is generally your designation at the management level. You are a finance manager with the Grapple drinks company. Grapple. So the name of the company is Grapple, and it's a company producing beverages. You report to David Guy, the finance director. Right, so you as the finance manager directly report to the finance director. Your primary responsibilities are associated with management accounting. This means that you have to liaise with colleagues from other functional areas including sales, HR, R&D and operations. David concentrates on the financial reporting and special projects, but he delegates some responsibility to you. Okay, so it's important for you to clearly understand your job role, and the best guideline would be the three subjects that you followed, P2, E2 and F2. Now, as you know, in the CIMA hierarchy, you have the operational level, management level and the strategic level. So when you started off with operational level, you were a finance officer according to the operational case study, and your focus was on the short term, right? So you had decisions such as how to deal with limiting factors and also how to do working capital management, right? And also day-to-day decisions relevant to marketing, HR and so on. So that was your focus at the operational level, but now at the management level you have to focus on the medium term. So your primary responsibilities are associated with management accounting as it says. Now, as the CIMA examiner has clearly stated, your main trigger for this exam would be from P2. The name of the module of course goes as Advanced Management Accounting. So if you think about the different areas in your syllabus, you can think of techniques to reduce cost such as target costing, Kaizen costing, value engineering and so on, as well as learning curve, just-in-time, TQM. So all of these will be applicable to our company. And also you have how to manage performance in responsibility centers, how to evaluate the performance financially and non-financially, Then you also have risk management, which is a part of P2. Moving on to F2, which is relevant to financial reporting. So as we see here, the finance director is mainly concentrating on financial reporting, and you would also have to be involved in certain aspects. Now, financial reporting F2, it mainly includes areas such as consolidation and accounting standards, which is roughly around 60% of your syllabus. You also need to know how to analyze ratios, right? An analysis of financial performance using ratios. Now, at this exam, you are not required to calculate the ratios. If anything, you would be given the ratios and you would have to use these ratios to evaluate or interpret the performance. And you also have an area relevant to cost of capital, cost of equity, and so on. Now, another aspect that caught my attention is the fact that David concentrates on special projects. Now, when talking about projects, I can think of two areas from the three subjects. First of all, from P2, investment appraisal. So around 25% of your P2 syllabus contains long-term decision making or investment appraisal techniques. So before moving forward with a project or an investment, it is important for you to do a financial evaluation. So for this purpose, you have 6 techniques: payback, discounted payback, net present value, accounting rate of return, internal rate of return, and modified internal rate of return. So you need to be thorough with all of these methods, and you have to know when each of these methods would be applicable. Now, of course, net present value is the most superior technique, but there are instances where straight away using NPV may not make sense. For example, if the projects are of a differing life, in that case, you'll have to use annual equivalent cash flows. And also instances where there is capital rationing, you'll have to use profitability index, assuming the assuming the projects are divisible. So that's about P2. Then projects would also link to E2, since project management is a key area, which is 25 to 30% of your E2 syllabus. So project management, the theoretical aspects are covered in E2. The stages of a project, the things to consider when planning a project, the feasibility studies, and also the job role of the project manager, right? How to make things efficient, how to do the planning from network diagrams, identify the critical path, and so on. So project management is very important. Now, if you look at the E2 syllabus, you have other areas such as globalization, strategy, and relationship management, the human aspect, and so on. Now, what I have noticed from my experience going through past variants is the fact that most of the time your E2, the theories are not exactly tested. Now, for example, if you are to form a team, you have Tuckman's steps, of forming, norming, storming, and so on. Now, it's not necessary for you to include these steps when you are formulating your answer. You can simply go by general thinking and practical aspects and talk about how to form a team practically to your company. So it's not necessary for you to by heart or memorize the theory names and the names of people that came up with these theories and so on. And it is not essential for you to apply a theory if you are to structure an answer, right? So for example, if you are to talk about resistance to change, how to overcome, definitely you can talk about Levin's force field analysis. But even if you put forward some general points, as long as they make sense and are applicable, you will still get your marks, right? So project management is an important area from E2 that you need to thoroughly go through, because there are certain technical aspects in project management such as network diagrams, Prince2 methodology, and so on. But apart from that, the other areas of E2, you need to be, you need to go through certain parts such as the different cultures and also health and safety regulations, right? And apart from that, all the theories you can just simply read through, but it's not necessary for you to by heart or memorize what's there in the theories. Now, talking about F2 standards, F2 accounting standards, it is important for you to know the exact essence in the standard. You may not need to know it word by word, but you need to have an idea. For example, if you are talking about sale and leaseback, operational sale and leaseback, then there are scenarios such as the selling price being higher than the fair value, selling price being equal to the fair value, selling price being lower than the fair value, and so on. And if the rental payments are below the market value. So those are some scenarios that can happen, and you are required to know the exact accounting treatment for each of those scenarios, which means you will have to do some remembering. Yeah. Okay. Now you have to liaise with colleagues from other functional areas, including sales, human resources, research and development, and operations. Now it's not necessary for you to have a high technical knowledge in these areas, but whatever covered in your subject areas would be important. Right now, for example, if you look at research and development, well, research and development comes into play many areas in P2, such as target costing, right, life cycle costing, and so on. So it's important for you to be able to integrate these functional areas with whatever areas concerned with you, and that is why the case study is called an integrated case study, and you have specific marks for integration itself, where you can link between two subjects or the same or two different areas in the same subject, right? So this ability, this skill will come to you through exam practice, and it is important for you to practice at least 5 mock exams. So you can have a look at our study packages that we offer, and we put forward 5 mock exams that you can practice in our online platform. And apart from that, we also offer a workbook with so many questions covering a very broad area in your subjects. And the best part is that all of these are applied to Grapple, which is ultimately how your exam is structured, right? So everything that you put forward in your answers should be applicable to Grapple, to the company that you're working for. Right, so that's some information about your job role. So you can expect many emails from this guy, David Guy, the finance director. Right. Moving on to the next page, we have information about Grapple's history. Grapple was founded in 1965. So that's 53 years ago, by Dudley Grapple. So the founder's name is Dudley Grapple, and the surname is what the business was named by. In Zedland, where the currency is Z$. Now, something I need to mention at the initial outset: many students waste their precious time by doing research on what real world company the case study is based on, and also they will be looking at the country in which that this hypothetical company is placed. Please keep in mind that these are all made up names of companies and countries and currencies. It is not required for you to do intense research and find out what real world company this is pertaining to, because it does not reflect a real world company. There might be some signs of a real world company in this hypothetical company, which is Grapple, but that does not mean that Grapple was based entirely on that particular company, on that particular real world company. So it's simply a waste of time. Now, I'm not discouraging you to do industrial analysis or industrial research. Well, you should spend some time familiarizing yourself with how the industry works, but don't waste time trying to figure out what this exact company or the exact country is. Right, so the country name is Zedland, currency is the Z$. Dudley was working as a sales manager for Regency Drinks at the time, and when it relocated from Zedland, he decided to take redundancy. Dudley incorporated Grapple and invested his redundancy money. Having taken a further bank loan, he acquired premises and started producing and distributing carbonated soft drinks, right? So we have some information about how the company started. The most important part for us now is the fact that our company is into producing and distributing carbonated soft drinks. So let's read on and find whether this is what we are still doing. The business has grown organically since incorporation. So grown organically means, they have reinvested their money back to the company. And the opposite of growing organically is, of course, to acquire other companies. Right? So growing organically would be in the form of introducing more flavors, more product ranges, moving on to different geographic areas, such as even different countries out of Sedland. Dudley's only child, Roger, started working for the business on the production line in 1985. He was quickly promoted into management positions and worked closely with Dudley to grow the business over the years. In the last 20 years, Grapple has introduced a range of new products sold in recyclable glass bottles. So these include carbonated mixers, still mixers, and fruit juices. Each year, new flavors were introduced, and Grapple monitored how the market reacted to each one. Okay, so moving back to the previous paragraph, we see that Grapple started off by producing and distributing carbonated soft drinks, and this is something that they are still doing, except that they now have still drinks as well as fruit juices, right? So producing and distributing. Now, being a business model that is into producing, I can think of so many areas to link from our subjects. If you look at P2, now this is of course a standard product, which means standard costing, a proper costing system is important, where you can calculate variances and monitor performance. Now, of course, standard costing and variances were tested at your previous level for P1, but then again, it can still be applicable for the management case study as well at a basic level, right? You don't need to go back to your P1 and go through the entire variance topic, but a basic knowledge is important. Then we can also think about the costing methods. Now, one costing method covered in your syllabus would be activity-based costing. So to what extent would activity-based costing be suitable for Grapple, right? We might have more information as we proceed that will help us to come up with a conclusion. And also you can think of techniques such as target costing, right? So target costing involves calculating the target cost based on the market price, and it's generally applicable for a standard product. So if they are to launch a new flavor, as stated here, if they are to launch a new flavor or a new product line, target costing would definitely be useful. And also life cycle costing, where you're estimating the costs and the revenues of a particular product over its lifetime. So that is something we do before launching the product using estimates. And there are so many other areas that you can think of. And if you take the value chain, right, you can definitely apply Porter's value chain analysis into this business, since it's a producer. Now, if it's a service sector, it's a little difficult to apply the value chain, especially due to inbound logistics, operations, and outbound logistics. In our case, inbound logistics would of course involve purchasing of different flavors and so on. Operations would involve the production process, and outbound logistics would involve the distribution part to retailers, supermarkets, and corporates and so on. We are still not sure who our clients are, but we will definitely be able to find out. Now, we see that in the last 20 years, they have introduced a range of new products, and launching new products consistently is a critical success factor in this industry. Now, if you look at the real world, if you look at the soft drink manufacturers that we come across, we see that time to time they come up with new flavors and also new varieties, such as sugar-free drinks, such as flavored, fruity flavored drinks, and so on. So it's important to keep a mix going, because different customers have different needs, and time to time trends might change. For example, the current trend is such that most people are concerned about the sugar content in soft drinks that they consume, and globally most governments have specified have made it compulsory for the soft drink manufacturer to indicate whether the sugar content is high, medium or low. So with the lifestyle that our people are spending, there are so many health related issues that come up, especially diabetes. So having a moderate consumption of sugar is important. Now there are so many developments, and there are so much of information that you can find out from this industry, since it's a very relatable one. However, we have made things easy for you at LCI Academy. We have prepared an industry analysis, a well summarized industry analysis. Our team of experts have produced a well summarized industrial analysis where we have included information about some real world companies and that follow a business model close to Grapple. So this industry analysis would save you a lot of time, although it would give you a lot of knowledge, all the essential knowledge about this industry. Now don't overdo industrial research, because from my experience I have noticed that even without having a high level of industrial knowledge, you can still pass this exam, right? So doing some research would be necessary, but you can do no research at all and simply get hold of our industry analysis, and that would be more than enough according to my opinion. So we sell our drinks in recyclable glass bottles. So recycling is another area that most countries have focused on due to the increasing consumption of plastic and polythene and so on. So these recyclable glass bottles, they can always be returned and reused, right? So that would reduce the amount of landfill. So we are currently looking at carbonated drinks, still drinks and fruit juices, right? So we might have different production lines for these, and a different set of employees. Now the amount of automation that we have introduced would also play a part in our costing process. So we will find out more information about that later on. So we see that each year we launch new flavors. Now another consideration would be the net present value whenever we are launching a new product, because generally products have a limited life cycle. So when launching a new product, it is important to estimate the cash flows. Now if it's a totally new product, if it's a totally new concept, then it would be difficult to estimate the cash flows, but nevertheless you need to conduct an investment appraisal before proceeding with it. Each year new flavors were introduced, and Grapple monitored how the market reacted to each one. So since 1965, ever since it was launched, they would have been innovating and launching new products time to time, and they would have gained a lot of experience and knowledge from the success and failure of these new flavors. So that would be a very strong asset that the company possesses in comparison to a new entrant, the knowledge, the insight, right? Revenues have increased as the business continued to gain market share based on a reputation of quality and value for money compared to its competitors. So that is definitely good news for any business. So revenue has increased. Now the question is whether profits have increased as well, and we see that costs have been kept under control. So in both ways it has benefited. Sales have increased and costs have reduced, which means, or costs have been kept under control rather, which means our bottom line, which is the profit, would generally increase. Now we have a reputation of quality and value for money. So maybe we are looking at somewhere in the mid segment, right? Not too cheap, not too cheap either, and not too expensive, right? So value for money generally sounds a mid-range, but so the value for money generally suggests an economical price, but due to the reputation of quality, my guess is that we are in the mid segment, but we'll find out more information. The purchasing team review the price of raw materials every quarter to make sure that Grapple is getting good value from its suppliers. So supply chain management is very important. Now you have to have a strong relationship with the suppliers that you are dealing with, so that they continuously supply whatever items you need without extending the lead time. Now quality is extremely important, because this is an item, this is a product that is consumed by the customer. Now for example, if you are looking at a product like furniture, right, that's not a product that we consume as such, right? We simply sit on a chair, right, or we simply keep stuff on a table. But soft drinks, these are products that we put into our system. So the quality, the safety, and how it is being sourced, all of that information, all of that aspects are extremely important, because a small mistake can go a long way, right? The health of the customer can be affected. So it's very important that we properly evaluate from whom we are buying our material. Now reviewing the price is important, but definitely the quality is even more important. The production process is closely monitored and wastage is kept to a minimum, although it still occurs, right? So maybe it is an inevitable part of this industry. Right now, if you are looking at fruit juices and so on, you can't use the entire fruit. You can't take use the entire fruit for the process. There might be a small part that may be thrown away. So that is something that is inevitable. Despite the growth, the business has continued to be operated from a single site. Okay, so there is an advantage and a disadvantage here. So being operating from a single site means all the functions and everything is closely placed, and it would make the administration part much simpler. But the drawback here is, in case there is some issue, there is some safety issue or some sort of a disaster happens to this site, then production would completely halt for some time until they recover from it, right? So, and also as we expand our operations, there might come a time, we might come to a point where this site may be a restriction to expand further to increase our output. So when that is the case, it is important for us to look at other options. Dudley's legacy is that Grapple has always had a good reputation for how it looks after its employees, right? So this is a company that is highly concerned about how the employees are treated. Now, it is important for a company in this industry to provide proper health and safety advice to the employees, because the production process, there might be certain risks in the production process. Okay, so it's important for us to give them the proper safety clothing, train them appropriately, and also remunerate them in a fair manner for their efforts. Remuneration packages are above average for the industry, and as staff welfare is important to Grapple, health and safety legislation is adhered to rigorously. Okay, so as I was mentioning, they pay their employees generously, which is above the industry average. Now, this would make it easy for us to retain our employees, because if the competitors are paying a lower amount, naturally they would like to stick with the company. And in addition, it may even attract talented employees from our competitors towards us. Okay, so time to time, our existing employees might leave the job due to personal reasons, and also due to old age and other reasons. So when that is the case, it is important to replace them with suitable employees. And also when our operations expand, we might need more employees as a whole. So these policies, such as paying a good remuneration above the industry, and also good health and safety legislation, adhering to health and safety legislations, is important. Now, when we are looking at the factory operations, educating the employees regarding the health and safety legislations is not enough. It is important to get employees to, it is important to have supervisors and administrative employees to monitor whether these are being adhered to, because sometimes for convenience certain employees may not adhere with certain rules. For example, safety equipment, there might be some sort of a safety uniform that you need to wear, but maybe it's a little too heavy and it slows you down. So some employees may be reluctant to do that, right? But it's very important to stay tough with these legislative whatever the legislation has forwarded. So disciplinary action may have to be taken if the employees are not adhering to it, right? And they need to understand that it's for their own safety. And any issue that may happen in the workplace safety can have a negative or can have an adverse impact on Grapple's reputation. So they have built their reputation for the last 50 odd years as a good employer, and one small incident can actually tarnish the whole thing. So they need to be very careful. So that is one risk that you need to manage. The factory is located on the edge of a small town in Zetland and close to an area renowned for its natural beauty. Now, the factory is located in the outskirts, which means the labor cost may be cheaper, right? Generally in the city, the labor cost is generally expensive because people demand for higher wages since the cost of living is high. But if it's outside the town, then you may be able to find people that are arguing for a lower wage. And since we have been in existence for more than 50 years, naturally the youth in that area can keep this in mind, and they can train themselves to be future employees of this company. So it's important for Grapple to provide internships as well, right, to university students and so on, or students that follow courses that are related to this production or any other function. Now, the area is renowned for its natural beauty. Now, whenever an area is renowned for its natural beauty, companies located in this area has to be very careful with how they conduct their operations. For example, carbon emissions can play a big role in this, right? And also how the waste is being dumped. So if there are some beautiful rivers and so on that tourists visit, and if companies recklessly dump garbage and waste into these rivers, then there might be a lot of issues, and the local government might take severe action against it. Grapple works closely with the local community to make sure the production processes at its factory do not harm the natural environment in any way. Okay, so stakeholder management is something that we see here. So the local community, right, you need to keep them informed, right? You need to keep them informed on how we are conducting our operations, so that their confidence is always maintained that we are a corporate that is not doing any harm to the environment. So we could also involve in CSR activities such as helping schools in the local community, right, and voluntarily carrying out certain cleanups and so on. Dudley died 10 years ago, aged 72, and Roger is now the chief executive. Now, Roger has worked in the business throughout his adult life. So as we see, since 1985, he has been working in this business. So that is more than 30 years of experience, which makes him the most suitable person to run the show. However, just because of experience, it doesn't mean that you will be a very successful CEO. It also depends on many other aspects, such as your risk attitude, how you treat people. Now, for example, if Dudley was a person that had a very high concern for the employees, and if Roger is not so, then there would be some resistance. But then again, Roger has been the CEO for it seems like the last 10 years, because Dudley died 10 years ago. So that is also a very good amount of experience. So close to 1/3 of the career that he spent at Grapple, he has been the CEO. In his will, Dudley bequeathed his 100% equity shareholding to his 4 grandchildren 10% each and Roger 60%. Roger's children have pursued their own interests, own careers, and are not interested in becoming part of the management team. Now, generally, a problem with a family-run business is that the successors, it might be difficult to find successors of a high caliber, right? Sometimes one individual starts the business, maybe the person's daughter or son may not be willing to continue, or they may not do a good job with the management aspect. So in this case, the grandchildren of Dudley or the children of Roger, they are not interested in being a part of the management team. But this is not a major concern, since if you have properly built a system, built a business system that will take care of its own, which should remind you of the McKinsey's 7S, right? Systems is definitely a very important part of that. So if that is the case, then there is no need for children to be hands-on with the business, right? They could simply be shareholders and monitor the business time to time. But for now, it seems like Roger is hands-on. He is the CEO himself. So they have kept their shareholdings, but have indicated that they would be prepared to sell them to raise funds for their future. Okay, so if needed, they may be willing to sell off their shares and use that money to fund whatever they are interested in. Roger is aged 55 and would like to retire in the next 5 years. Right now, there may be a bit of a risk here, because if Roger retires, the person succeeding Roger may not do a good job, and also the people working here may be very much used for Roger's management style, and it might be coming from Dudley, right? So all of a sudden, if Roger retires, the entire culture of the company may change with the new management. So the children have made it very clear that they don't want to continue with Grapple as a management team member, right? So it's important for Roger to devise some sort of a contingency plan after he retires, so that the family business would not just go away from them. Now, generally, we see that in management case study sessions in the past, almost every time except for two or three times, we have seen a public limited company, a listed company. But in this case, it seemed to be a private equity company, since the shareholding goes 60% for Roger and 10% each for Roger's children. But there is always a chance in your exam that they might decide to list the company. They might decide to make it a public limited company to raise more funds. And when they decide to make it a public limited company, you have additional areas, consolidation, and accounting standards such as IFRS 8 coming in. Grapple is an unlisted entity and prepares its financial statements in accordance with IFRS, right? So these are all the accounting standards that you have covered for F2, right? So it will be the entirely same thing that you need to apply for this case study as well. The financial statements are prepared in Z dollars, and there are 100 cents to 1 Z dollar. Okay, so that brings to an end of the introductory video of the pre-scene. Now, you can get your hands on the entire set of pre-scene videos if you visit our management level case study page. I have included the link at the bottom. Now, speaking a little about our study packages, we have so many different study packages that you can choose from. So talking about our gold package, which is the premium package, which comes the pass guarantee. So in case you fail the exam, in the subsequent sessions you will receive all the study material free until you pass the exam. Now, we offer the entire pre-scene video analysis, and apart from that, there is also a strategic analysis that looks at models such as SWOT, PESTEL, Porter's 5 forces, value chain and so on applied to Grapple, of course. Then, as I mentioned, we also have an industry analysis, which is a well concised document which includes all the important aspects relevant for this industry from the real world. Then we also provide a familiarization workbook which includes short tasks from each subject P2, E2 and F2, which will refresh your knowledge, and it will also have the model answers that we have prepared. There is a mini mock exam that you can try out free of charge that will be released in the upcoming days. We have 5 mock exams that you can practice in our online exam platform. Right, so it will simulate the actual CIMA exam. It will be very close to the CIMA exam that you are facing. So we have 5 mock exams directly relevant for Grapple. Now, as I mentioned, it's very important for you to do at least 5 mock exams before the main exam. Right, you might have a high level of knowledge, but unless you practice exams under timed conditions, it may be difficult to adjust yourself for the actual exam. And in the goal package, we will also be evaluating your answers. So our team of expert markers will provide you the mark breakdown that you have scored, along with feedback on where you were strong and where you need improvement, right? And also suggestions for you to improve further. And finally, it comes with 5 hours of Skype time with a tutor. Right, so you have 5 hours of Skype time with the tutor that you can decide how to spend. Right, you can discuss with our tutor and you can decide how to spend the 5 hours. So we have a more than a 90% pass rate in our gold packages. Now, apart from the gold package, we also have other packages, silver, bronze, and also we offer individual products. So you can take a look at that at the through the link below. Now we also have a WhatsApp group that you can join, and we'll be discussing important areas of the pre-scene. Right, we have 4 ACMA tutors in the group, and we have students globally from a range of different countries. Right, so with that being said, thank you so much for listening. All the very best.